so.
Yeah, I love it.
How we doing?
It's not too good, but it's
Okay.
Chairman, I think we're on.
We're on. We're on. We're good.
I'd like to call to order the Smyrna Planning Commission for February 2020. And at this time, we'd ask everyone to please stand for our prayer and pledge.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings that we have in the town in which we all live. We ask that you be with us tonight, especially our first responders as they protect us with our recent rains. We ask that the public heeds all the warnings and does not drive through high water and put anyone's lives in danger. Be with us tonight as we deliberate the business of the town. Guide us and guard us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any citizens' comments at this time?
We do have one who called in after the agenda was out, who did request to be able to speak tonight.
All right, and that is,
Mr. Rob Thompson.
if Mr. Rob Thompson would come forward. About 3 or 4 minutes, please, sir.
Thank you. My name is Rob Thompson. I live on Rock Springs Road on a farm that neighbors one of the plans that you'll be evaluating tonight, the Harts Branch development. Wanted to just share that from a resident who lives close to that. It's a good plan for what we've seen. We have a few concerns, a lot of it related to number of units, the traffic that it would cause. Also, a little bit concerned about the design elements. It looks like a very good plan, but we'd like to see building standards and design elements increased a little bit, just to keep the neighborhood where it is and even ratchet it up from where it is. So we have a few requests we would like to make in terms of just with us bordering how the development comes in and impacts our property a little bit. As needed, I can provide details or if needed, but that's all I wanted to share was just as a resident, some concerns, a general support as long as some of those concerns are addressed.
Can you quickly mention those, like bullet point?
Yes, sir. So again, from a number of units included in the development, we feel like it's a large number of traffic potential hazards that will be created. We would like to see, from a visual design standpoint, a little more increase to the design standard that's been presented. So as an example, I know this developer has built Lennox Village. This seems to be near the Lennox Village perspective, but not quite there. I would recommend going to that kind of standard, if not even increasing. There are 2 very large farms and estate homes that are next to this, mine included. We have a nicer design standard on ours than what this is presenting. So that's just from a visual perspective for the community in that area. I think it can support it, and it would increase the selling transaction price as well, even with if the number of units were reduced. For our property, we would like to see a larger border between us and the new development, and then make sure some possible fences and utilities are all stubbed out appropriately just for protection of our farm and the visual interest and the livestock as well. But generally.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anybody else?
That's all I heard from.
Okay. Moving on to item number 4, approval of the minutes. Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes as they were handed out? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to new business, under item 5A, rezoning, Parts Branch Village, staff comments.
Now, this is a request for 2 tracts of land and then the parts of 2 other tracts of land that would total 21.95 acres. One of the tracts is zoned R5, the other 3 are zoned R4, and they would all have been requested to be rezoned to a PRD. The surrounding zoning is a mix of things. You have the Stitcher's Playhouse PUD, which is commercial / small commercial residential mix PUD. Then a R1, R3, R4, and R6 are also surrounding this property. Land use plan would support a commercial and single-family medium-density residential mix here in this area. The proposed PRD is for a 169-unit townhouse complex. We did receive a booklet of information, which was in your packet, as well as a larger master plan that is proposed. It was a larger document. We did receive revised master plan, as well as one of the things we'd asked for was a truck turning movement. Those are on your desk that are different from what's in your packet. The booklet has not been changed from what was in your packet. We did have a few comments. We did request that a traffic study be submitted in compliance with the zoning ordinance. They have agreed to that would be coming as a part of the site plan, if this is approved. We did ask them to show the total area of the site to be dedicated as common open space. They do have page 2 of the larger plan that was submitted. Does show areas that are to be dedicated as common open space. They are exceeding what we require as far as the area of open space, as well as the area of improved open space. The next item, we'd ask them to show the proposed size range of the townhomes. That is on that, again, that large master plan. It is a 1,200 to 2,200 square feet range of heated space. That does not account. They all have a minimum of a 1-car garage. Some of them do also have a 2-car garage. Number 7, our comment there was to ask them to coordinate with Rutherford County Board of Education on the proper location for a bus stop. They are showing the bus stop along Rock Springs Road. We did recommend they look at a more centrally located one, just from our concern was safety of kids getting picked up on Rock Springs Road. They did coordinate that with Rutherford County, and the school board did okay the location that they are proposing. So, number 8, we'd ask them to show the double width driveways in front of all the units, so 2 cars could be parked in front of each unit, and they have shown that. And then number 9, we'd ask them to provide a truck turning movement, which we did receive that. The fire department has not had an opportunity to review that yet, but we did receive that plan. And it does appear to be okay, but they'll always like to let the fire department take a look at it. And then number 10 was really an informational comment that there is this location does meet our requirements as far as fire flow, and so that's not an issue here.
So which ones of the comments do we scratch again?
Really, primarily, the only thing that we can scratch everything other than number 4 regarding the traffic study. Really, everything else has been met as far as what we asked for them to show.
The minimum square footage is
1,200 to 2,200. 1,200 is the minimum. It's a 12 to 2,200 is the range that they are requesting.
And based on what we've seen, they do meet the design review?
Yes, they are a stone, brick, and hardy siding mix on all the units. That's what we are proposing. I believe it says, they don't really say front, side, or rear, but they said that all those sides would be those three materials, or one of those three materials. What they're showing on their proposed is kind of a mix of brick and hardy on the front. These are typical type units, so it wouldn't necessarily be exactly what's there, but it'd be something like that.
And based on one of Mr. Thompson's requests, the type C landscape buffer, what's involved in that?
It's basically, it's a double row of landscaping, evergreen landscaping. It would not include a fence necessarily by ordinance. It is certainly something that could be, that this body could review and add to that. I think it is something that makes sense, since his property is still an active farm with some animals and that sort of thing. If you're gonna have more folks living there next to them, then it might make sense to have some fencing there from a security standpoint for both for his animals as well as the folks that live there in those homes.
Hey, what questions do y'all have?
Kevin, what density, help me with my memory as far as R4?
R4 is you can have up to basically 5,000 square feet per lot on a zero lot line. So you have a 10,000 square foot lot, 5,000 per unit. So in theory, you could get into certainly the 8 to 9,000. That would be kind of the max kind of probably density though. You're probably in realistic terms more around 5 or 6 per acre. This is about 7.7 per acre, I think.
The R4 also allows for quads,
Oh, it does not. It only allows 1 and 2 family.
1 and 2 family,
Yes.
but 5,000 square foot lot.
Yeah, 5,000 square feet per lot on the 2 family, yes.
I noticed that a fairly significant section of Phase 1 and really portions of Phase 3 are in a floodplain.
Yes.
From your perspective, what concerns do we have there?
Well, certainly it's a concern that can be addressed. It is a concern, but it can be something that can be addressed. There is no floodway in there. It is all 100-year floodplain. They would have to do some cut and fill within that area. The minimum floor elevations of all the homes would have to be 3 feet above that flood elevation, with the garage at least 1 foot above. And then they would have to have a balance of any fill material would have to be balanced by cut, so that there would not be any increased flooding chance for anybody that's up or downstream from that area.
And does that just apply to the foundation of the home itself, or does that include parking as well?
It would primarily would be the foundation or the floor elevation of the home, and then, like I said, the garage would have to be a foot above. We have historically, in this very immediate area, we did require parking to be at or above the floodplain level as well. I think that's probably something, it's not necessarily required by our ordinance, specifically in our floodplain ordinance, but you are going to have some, as part of at least the current layout they're proposing, there is some guest parking areas, as well as some parking driveways. I would think most of those driveways, as a matter of building the pad up for the house, you're probably going to get the driveways to the individual units are going to be kind of lifted up out of the
Well, I think
floodplain anyway.
I think
But-
we talked about if that wasn't the incline, from going from parking to home in the other project was going to be fairly significant without that. Plus, I think we
Right.
had safety concerns about people and, you know, vehicles and whatnot in the parking area itself, should we have an event.
So, I mean, I think that's certainly something that we should probably, if you're concerned about that, certainly add that as a condition of any approval, if you do choose to recommend approval. That those, like I say, those units are going to have to be built up out anyway. I think your parking pads for those units would be kind of probably going to naturally just happen. But having that as a condition, as well as have an 8 or 10, 6 or 8 unit kind of parking area there, parking space, you know, having that as out of the floodplain as well, at least
That's
two.
not asking for a lot on this, because most of it already is with the way they've laid out their units.
Most of it's out of the floodplain anyway, yeah.
Probably, what, a few units right there is about all that's really affected by it, isn't it?
Yeah, you basically gotta have 1, 2,
We'll see.
5 buildings of units
Your parking
that will
is
be
out.
affected.
That's the back of the building,
Oh, I'm just looking at the
Yeah.
buildings as well.
yeah. So you're not talking about a lot of area to deal with.
I think on the other one too, Tim, the parking lot was a lot lower, 2 or 3 steps below grade.
Okay.
And so to get out of the apartment, to get to your car to leave, you'd have to go through 3 foot of water.
Yeah.
So.
Just
actually-
hoping we
Yeah. Yeah, the
don't
park-
have a similar situation.
Kevin, if this is left zoned the way it is, could that continue to be a mobile home park?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and it could be expanded. I
And
mean,
what's
'cause
the
it's-
density allowed in a mobile home park?
It's basically, it's very, very similar density to our multifamily density. So, and I have had, when this property came on the market, one of the first people that came to talk to me was looking at it potentially to buy it and add units to it as a mobile home park. And it certainly could be something that could be done, because it is well below the density currently. It's not a very large park.
And it's much less dense than an R6 would be, as it's proposed.
As it's proposed, this is a
Yeah.
little less than 8 units per acre, yes.
The, how much is in how much of the property that we're looking at, how much is the R5?
It's the largest tract, 16.88 acres.
So 16 times 14? Somewhere around 220.
You're pretty significant number, a couple hundred units probably.
Somewhere around 224 mobile homes are already
Permitted.
Could be.
permitted in an R5 zone, which this is, and has been for forever.
My entire time here, yes.
My entire time,
Now we're going back.
way back, yes.
These gonna be built for sale, not to rent.
Yes.
Is there and I've been looking for it, with it being property like this, is there a dumpster on site anywhere, garbage, refuse?
Private.
I haven't seen one.
Typically those, on this type of development, it's handled just like you would at your house. Individual, yeah.
Kevin, just from a parking perspective, I know we talk about this all the time with some of the issues we've had in the past. Are you comfortable with the double wide spots and the setbacks being what they are?
Yes, I mean, they have 2 spaces, and it's 20 feet from the garage out, so, and then they have, of course, the garage units, but we're not counting those garages. We're only counting the spaces in front. And then they have 68 spaces in addition to those individual unit spaces for guests. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with the amount of parking they've got.
And those 68 spaces are not necessarily required with our new regulations, are they? I know we like to see them, and it's a fun, we
I mean,
always ask for it.
And we all, yeah, it's something that we've always said, we always evaluate those kind of on an individual development basis to make sure that we feel like they have enough there. What they're proposing, I'm comfortable with on the size of this development, with the spaces that they're gonna have in front of each space for the people who live in those units. So, and they're spread out throughout the development too. They're not all in one spot. You know, there's some all through the development. So you'll have spaces for guests spread out through the development.
So based on the new regs that we have been given, does it meet those since they upgraded
Right,
their
right.
parking, the two parking?
Yeah, because this is not, I think what you may be thinking about is on a single family. You know, we require the 35-foot
Right,
setback on a
that's what I was
single
asking.
family, so you have 4 on each individual lot that way. And don't necessarily have guest parking in that situation.
But the main thing is where there's 2 parking spaces per unit. And that doesn't necessarily count the garage.
Right. We're not counting the garage at all on the 2 per unit on this, right?
So with the parking spaces and garages, some will have 3 and some will have 4. I mean, if you count.
Correct,
the
because
garage.
some will have 2-car garages and some have 1-car garages, right?
Are we looking at any type of third-party HOA? Because I noticed that we have amenities and
Yes,
common
the-
areas that will need to be maintained.
It's, yeah, and it's, I can't remember, I can't find it, yeah.
Did I miss that?
Note number 23 on the plan. Have a homeowners association managed by a third-party company. You're
Okay.
listed those on the right side there under general
Okay.
notes.
A couple things that kind of make me have a little, I guess, favor with this is the fact that we are eliminating the possibility of expanding the mobile home park there by doing something different, whether it's this or another plan. One of the things that we've looked at doing too is trying to enrich our downtown area with rooftops and demographics and for Front Street and, you know, some of the businesses down that way. And this kind of helps that demographic in a way, in a positive way, so it's close by.
And we have required them as part of the, because Rock Springs Road is a collector, they are showing a sidewalk along their frontage, certainly. so-
Mr. Thompson, when he spoke, was a little concerned about traffic, I think he said, and how will that, I'm assuming there'll be a traffic study done,
There would be-
always is, right?
Right, we would have a traffic study, would have to be submitted as a part of when the site plan comes back to us. And whatever that traffic study recommends, I anticipate there could be a need of a turn lane, a couple of those entrances
That was my
maybe.
next question, and I guess the traffic study would reveal that.
Right,
I think that's, for Rock Springs Road, that might be a high priority,
Mm-hmm.
maybe something we want to look at
right.
hard at. Mr. Thompson, I want to tell you, I appreciate the manner in which you present that, because a lot of times we just hear negative things, and you came up and you said you really liked the plan a little bit. And, that said, I agree with him. I think we should find a way probably to give him a buffer. I don't know if the C class does that to the extreme we need it to, but fencing is something I heard discussed, and I'd like to talk more about that if we can.
Sure.
And see if we can find a way to give him some sort of privacy, not just from landscaping, but from a barrier. If it's to move forward, I'd like to make sure we do that for him.
When would that be addressed? Here or site plan?
Well, I think it can be addressed either place. I mean, certainly it can be something that,
Oh, we might as well address it
Might as well
somewhat
address it
here
now.
so everybody
Right.
knows what
and
is going
then
to
we
be
could
expected.
review the specifics, what the developer comes back with at the site plan, but I think it's certainly something along that border, which would basically be the western border and then the north side back to the apartments.
Yeah.
Would be the border that we're talking about.
I can assure you that a fence is going to be needed and required, because, you know, there's animals there, there's, kids enjoy the animals, but they don't necessarily mix unsupervised. You know, I would think like a chain link type fence there in addition to whatever buffering we require on this side.
Maybe a black coated chain, something like that.
But mainly, a fence that really works as a fence and not just something that's
Maintain.
that's decorative.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's an unreasonable thing. And bottom line is, I think, one, it'll keep the critters out of the yard, and it'll keep the kids away from the critters. And I think it's just, everybody will be happier with it and be less of an issue with folks. And I don't think that's too much to ask for either.
I've got a question. I think a concern was raised as it relates to the design or the elevation of the units. It shows 169 townhomes. Will there be any other elevations other than what we see here on this this rendering? Otherwise, the entire
There's
I guess,
some in there. Look,
development.
did you see the?
There's
Yeah.
some different ones. They have 3 or 4 pages of different renderings.
Back here.
Toward the back of the book as well. So I mean, I think there's,
Those are the same as in the front.
But there's,
But those are the same.
and I will,
yeah. Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I got
looked
it.
at
Okay, I understand your question, I'm sorry.
I will say the developer is here as well, if you have any, if you want, have any questions that the developer might could address. I'm neglected to say that earlier. But there are, I mean, certainly, I think there's some different options. I don't know whether it'll be absolutely exactly what's on the front page, but it'll be something similar. Primarily, what they've submitted is primarily the concrete siding with some brick and stone mixed, you know.
So these are all masonry products.
They're all masonry products, yeah, there's no vinyl.
Kevin, the sewer line, there's not one on property now, correct?
Yeah, how will this be sewered?
It's gonna be coming from the east.
I see where it comes in Highland off the other property, because didn't they have to bring it in where they're developing now?
I mean, what they're proposing is to connect it from the development, what you're talking about, and connecting it further from that eastern side, come in that direction.
And I'm assuming the line that's currently there that they put in or they tied into is large enough to handle a development this size? Flow?
I would assume so. I know our utilities department has seen these plans, and they didn't ask for anything more, so I'm assuming it's big enough, yeah.
Are utilities run to the adjacent property?
They're not shown here on these drawings. That is something we typically would require.
Is
you
it
know.
part of the comments?
I don't believe, it's not on the staff comments here, I don't know what have not received the construction plans, utilities probably hasn't reviewed it from the construction plans, so I know that's something they look at too. when they review those
Can we make
construction
that
plans.
part of the staff comments?
Sure.
It will,
The stub utilities to those adjoining properties,
yes,
where it makes sense, yeah.
yeah.
They've got it really close, but it wouldn't be that much further. Really for any of the adjoining properties.
And it'll need to be at a point where
Where it can be
Yes, sir.
utilized, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kevin, the mix on 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, I'm assuming it's 1, 2, and 3. Do we know that mix? From 1,200 to 2,200 square feet? Or is there gonna be any 1 bedrooms or
I don't,
2
I
and
don't,
3s?
I don't know if they say that, actually. Again, the developers here, you might could answer that. I assume they're all gonna be at least 2. Typical, most townhouses are,
Well, I know the
yeah.
depot is, some of those are 1s, right?
Those are apartments though.
Those
Yeah,
are apartments,
but
yeah.
I wanna make sure what
Yeah.
size they are, and how many people would be there.
See, the
as far
developer might could answer that better than I could. I don't think they've got that in here on our
Okay.
drawing.
One other question, and then we'll be right with you, sir. The minimum, 1,200 minimum. How do we feel about that? Have we approved something with 1,200 minimum recently?
I don't, most of what we've seen recently, we have been a little bit larger, in the 1,600, 15 to 1,600 range is the
On
minimum.
townhomes?
What did we do out on,
Trying to
Kendall
remember.
Farms, what was Kendall Farms? I think it was like 13.
Central Farms was smaller, it was 13 or 14, you're right on that one. I was thinking, I think Lee Crossing has a
What did
14 or
we do on
1500,
Rocky-
maybe
What did we do at
16.
Rocky Fork at the school?
They were larger.
They were larger.
Yeah, they were in the
Right on
16, I think they were 16.
16 to 24 or something.
Where,
On Nashville Highway near the church, St. Luke's.
yeah, the last,
That was,
Do you remember?
well, they basically were the same as what was approved on the previous section.
Do you remember the minimum square footage there?
I don't know, it was smaller than, Lee Crossing is the one that sticks in my head as 16, but, I don't remember exactly.
I just don't recall them being 16 over there.
That one's probably smaller because it was the same as what was approved of phase one, you know, and it was little bit
And the
smaller.
ones across from Stewartsboro?
That's one I think you're
that's
talking
what
about.
we're
One you're
talking
talking
about.
Yeah, they were probably, I think they were 13 to 14 also,
Yeah.
but they weren't 16. But I think Lee was 16. I think, seemed like Gwen Farms had that a little bit larger, the piece that they were gonna do. So many of them swirling around in my head, I can't, off the top of my head, keep them all straight, but.
Yes, sir. Please give us your name and address. please.
Thank you. I'm David McGowan. I'm president of Bridget Homes, and we've been building in Smyrna now for over 20 years. I'm very proud to be building in Smyrna. As
Tell
far
us
as,
where, as far,
pardon?
tell us, go ahead and tell us
We,
where.
we
You're in
actually
Lenox,
developed
right?
Lennox in Smyrna, and so that neighborhood, we only have like 2 live-work units left to sell out there. It's been a very successful community to us. Went through the recession, never really missed a beat too much out there. It slowed down a little bit, but did real well for us. This particular community, we target consumers. And so all the end units are designed to have master bedrooms on the first floor. And so 40% of these homes, or it's actually 42%, are designed for the 55-plus senior buyer. And those will all be just under, right around 1,450 square feet. The interior units will also be targeted mainly toward the millennial buyer, young singles, young couples, young families. All of these will be a minimum of 2 bedrooms with a flex room. It should be a 3rd bedroom. The interior units are all 3 bedrooms, so there would be 3-bedroom units on there. And so they are planned out. As far as the square foot minimum, we can live with 1,400 square feet minimum on the units there. So a lot of times we put 1,200 in there just in case we ever get something where we wanted to put a 2-bedroom on the first floor. But we'll stick with a 1,400 square foot minimum.
That helps us be consistent with what we've done in the past, so I do appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Right on.
And then typically, if a homeowner likes, he would like to have fence, we would be glad to sit down with him, talk to him about a plan, either to do the type fence you met, black chain link fence or something on that line, and to fence that area, so there's no problem with that either.
Mr. McGowan, you guys did Lennox, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You've got some product over there that's all flat level,
We do.
and they seem to stay on the market about a day. What size are those? They're 1,200s and so forth over there?
There's some of those that get down, originally down to 1,250 square feet.
Yeah.
They were basically a 2-bedroom.
Are you finding that your senior community likes that flat?
It's all about the price, you know.
Yeah.
If you imagine if I can deliver something under the $250,000 price point, it goes real fast. If you get closer to 2, it even goes faster. So those smaller units for the senior buyers are very attractive.
And they're really hard to find.
They are,
Yeah.
real hard to find.
What price range do you anticipate to be in, looking at the 1,400 minimum, and I know it varies,
Right.
but for
We
you?
build this product currently in Spring Hill and in Davidson County. They start usually somewhere around, the interior units start somewhere around about a 220s, mid-220s to high 220s. And then the one units on the end with the master down, they usually start right in the 240s, 249s.
So you anticipate something in the 220 to 240
Yes, sir.
ballpark?
And we consider this the attainable house today. We don't really try to build affordable, we call it attainable today. And in the marketplace right now, trying to hit a price point that people are trying to move out of the rentals and get into a for sale product. And so this is what we consider the attainable price range. And it's really also addressing the workforce. The people who would be working at the restaurants and the shops nearby would have a place that they could afford to buy. A lot of the young people starting off a family, it's a perfect townhome for them as well. Joe Epps, our engineer, is here, and if you got any questions for him, he's available too.
So we could expect y'all to talk to the neighboring property owners and having the fencing and whatever buffers addressed by the time we see our site plan.
Yes, sir. We'd be glad to meet with them. We've done a combination of plants and fence before, and it's just a matter of, should we keep part of it open or should we get it all closed off? And so your recommendation of black fence, we've done that before. We've also fenced directly behind the units with a solid fence, but not, and then just landscaping like a black fence elsewhere. So a little combination there, we have no problem with doing that.
I think as long as it's something that meets our minimums and y'all agree to it, I don't know that we would have any issues with, do you? But, yeah, we'd appreciate you address it.
Thank you.
And have that done by then.
Will do.
We're gonna make a comment on the 1,400 square foot thing.
Sure.
All-in units would have a master
bedroom, yeah.
downstairs. Other questions, comments?
How far from Highland to Access Drive B? If somebody turned out of Highland or turned out of the Access B and wanted to turn back onto Highland, how close is that? Because you've got another road, if I remember right across from Highland, out of that set of apartments there, is that right? You run straight across on Highland?
Roughly, yeah. It's about 250 feet.
Okay, so if there's a decel lane that's needed from coming from town to this, coming from the downtown area to this complex, how long is that decel lane? I guess what I'm talking about, is this road far enough down the road to get in and out, or to decel to get in it, without having to turn out of here and then turn right back onto Highland?
That's probably a question that we would probably look at it with that traffic study in reality, because we want to, you're right, we want to be sure there's enough room. If they need a right turn decel lane, do you have enough stacking and all that kind of stuff?
Right.
And so, do you have to shift your drive a little bit further west or something? I think that can all be accommodated there. But I think that probably was something I would want to look at the traffic study to make
The
it.
current entrance now is closer to the Stitchers, and I mean, that's about the middle of the property.
Yes.
I know there's another one down the Access Drive A, the one on the other end, same way. But this one, if you have to put a decel lane in, it's gonna take up quite a bit of that footage. That may
Sure.
have to be moved down, so you're not turning out, turning right back in, getting in and out of that property. I know we've had that here before in years past, and with the development, some of the moving of some of the properties, things have been straightened up. So,
Yeah, like I said, I would probably like to see that traffic study, see if it's even a recommendation that they need to have that. But yeah, absolutely, we have to be sure, because that traffic study, if they have to have it, they're gonna recommend a design as well. So,
and there's not a shoulder out there on Rock Springs
There's not.
at all.
There's
It's
not.
just a ditch.
right.
So,
However, this can be adjusted. I like the idea of leaving the open area in front continues to be the open area. Because dealing with the flood area, as we've seen on the adjacent project, can
Be very
an issue
difficult.
to deal with.
Yes.
I see Charles taking notes, so I think he's gonna make sure from that perspective as far as the drive.
Other questions or comments? It's the will of the commission. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the staff comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I'm going to assume that's all as amended.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought. Just want to be sure.
Anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Moving on to item number 2 under rezoning request, Sean Collins, staff comments.
Yes, this is a rezoning request from R3 to PRD. It's 2 tracts of land that together total 19.47 acres. The surrounding zoning is a mix of the Cedar Hills PRD, which is directly across the street from it, R1 and R3, and then RM in Rutherford County. The land use plan will support a medium-density, single-family residential development here. This proposed PRD, let's clarify our comment there, it is for 38 lots, called villas or zero lot line type lots, 2 units per lot, so it would be 76 total. There is also an existing single-family residence on the tract, on this property. It would remain, so there would be a total of 77 residences once this is completely built out. We had several comments. The first comment, or number 4 actually on our list, is the main road is required to be a neighborhood collector, and that with a 24-foot pavement width, and they have corrected that, and that is correct now. Number 5 is similar comment to what we had with the previous development regarding coordinating the bus stop with the Rutherford County Board of Education. They have they have moved that. It is more centrally located now, kind of internal to the development. This original plan we had did have the streets were proposed to be private, and that is now not the case any longer. So that was part of the issue with the bus stop location, I think. Would ask them to show the correct parking total on page C 2.0. That's done. That's been corrected now. We did ask the entry road into this development is there's some pretty steep topography, and we did ask them what the slope would be. At this time, I don't think they've designed that yet, but they did state that it would be it would meet our subdivision regulations and have a 10% slope maximum. We did make a comment, and this would need to remain as kind of just an informational comment. They talk about the front porch might extend in front of the front wall of the garage, which is fine, but we did state that it must meet the minimum building setback. We did ask for additional examples of proposed housing elevations. They only provided a couple. They did not provide anything additional at this time on that. We did, again, recommend a traffic study be done. This would, from a volume standpoint, this really wouldn't meet our typical requirements of a traffic study. But because of the steepness of that slope, of the road coming out onto Morton Lane as well as just sight distance, we did ask them to at least take a look at that with a traffic engineer to review that, with, if it's approved when their subdivision plat comes in. Number 11 is really just an informational comment that if this is approved, the address will have to change for the existing house. Number 12, we did ask for a truck turning movement, and they did submit that to us. Again, the fire department has not had an opportunity to review that yet, but we did receive it. We asked them to include a scale, and they've done that. And we did ask them to extend sewer along over to that western property line, and that has been done, and so that is shown now. Number 15 was a comment from CUD. The existing fire flow is not adequate for this development. However, there is a project is underway that would correct that, as with several developments in this area. And so until that's done, they can't get any building permits, but that is a project that is underway. Again, we did receive some revised plans. The plans in front of you are revised a little bit from what you had in your packet because they did address several of those comments. I did look, they are 1,500 square foot minimum on these. 1,500 is what they're proposing on the minimum on these. And they are proposing this as an age-targeted community, as an age 55 and up. So they don't state that they would be restricted to that, but that is what they're targeting. So that is something that's different than what was on your packet, in your package rather.
What's the design of the units then? Do they have downstairs?
They will have, they would have, I would assume, they don't have floor plans. They are, some of the units are, the elevations they provided to us are two-story, some of them are two-story units. Which page those units are on, but they are two-story units. But we don't have floor plans, so they would have to, the developer would have to address that, but I would assume they would have downstairs master bedrooms.
On a flood, wouldn't we normally have that?
We wouldn't necessarily have floor plans, no. But for an age-targeted community, if they are targeting that, we probably need that information. At least, like Mr. McGowan said earlier, they would have the one bedroom, a master bedroom downstairs or something like that. Again, we don't have floor plans on his development either, we just have the exterior elevations.
All right. So on this property, what has been approved?
What has been
Today?
approved?
We said, we had
We've rezoned the property from R1 to R3, that's all we've done up to this point.
no, we haven't done any preliminary plat. or
No,
anything.
no.
Okay. Questions?
The current house that's on it, it's not visible from the road now, correct?
I don't believe so, it's fairly wooded site, so you probably can't really see it from the road.
I've been by there a couple of times and I can't see the home, so.
It's set back quite a ways off the road.
On this, well, what we've got here, I'm looking at C 2.0. Where is it in the development? Is it on the back by the detention pond? Or do you know,
Lot
Kevin?
9, the proposed Lot 9.
Is the current existing home?
Yes.
Okay. Is part of the water flow for Consolidated, are they putting a pumping station in over by Kedron Church? Is that where?
Yes.
Right on the road?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of on the back of this property, or fairly close to it. Okay.
Have the elevations been addressed as far as materials?
Yeah, it's a brick and brick, stone, party, C 4.0, I believe, has it, yeah. On the, there's a list of notes on the, kind of toward the bottom right. And then the pictures are 4.1, and the next page are the two pictures that they've given, which are pretty similar. I think they're both the same thing, now that I look at it. Just a little different material, but the same elevation.
Okay, I'm having trouble on the layout of the lots and it's for 36 villa lots. And
Yeah, that's what it is. It's really, it's actually 38 lots. That's a typo in our comments.
Okay,
And reason, partially, we had, the original development had a mix of some two-family and one-family, single-family both. And so I think that was just a holdover, it's a typo in our comments there. It's 38 lots, 38, well,
38 lots, there'll be 2 units on each.
lot, and then there'll be, technically there's 39 lots, because one of them will be the existing house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they'll be built as 0 lot lines where
Yes.
where they sell individually.
Yes.
Got it.
Is surrounding R3, or is it R3 PRD?
You have some R3, the Bankside development is R3, and you have some R1 to the east, which is actually Bankside that existed prior to being annexed into the town. And then you have the Cedar Hills PRD directly across the street, and then you have, excuse me, I think it's Westover. Directly to the west there, it's, you have one parcel in between, but. And we did do this, Jennifer did create this map, and that's, I think we got one hard copy. The last time some of this came up, we kind of wanted it was requested, we kind of see kind of the big picture of everything that's going on out there, so. Cedar Hills across the street here, you got Bankside, Westover, Blakeney, Derby Run, and Amberton. Those are all kind of on that one map there. So.
The piece of land that's between this parcel and the one that's kind of a violet color,
Yeah.
is that the easement for the power lines? Because there are some high voltage power lines out there. I don't think there's another house there.
There is a house on that property, because Mr., his name,
There's the
Mr.
driveway.
Treseder actually lives on that property. Yeah,
The parcel that's in the white there, there is a current home on it as well.
that's
Okay.
the current, the white parcel that outlined in white there is the parcel that's up for consideration tonight. The parcel you're talking about on this drawing would be directly to the west of that,
Okay.
yeah. I don't believe there's power lines there.
As the council's representative and looking at this, I kind of know, or think I know what might happen if we go to council with this. And I heard age target at 55, correct?
Yes.
Target.
I think if this were age restricted, where it was a requirement to be 55 and older, it would be a great addition to this area, and I could see more favor there, because I've been through so many of the discussions so far that when we've got something surrounding this R3, or even if it's a PRD, if it's a similar PRD from the lot sizes and whatnot, that you're more likely or not to see that pass at a council setting. So I think it's important for me to say that at this point, so I can kind of level set expectations. From the elevation perspective, the flat living, that all looks great. And I mean, it's a great area for a 55 and up community. You've got state-of-the-art park that's within walking distance of this. You've got, you know, a mix of nicer homes that surround this in neighborhood. And I know even from a traffic perspective that when you're 55 and older, you're probably not going to follow the typical traffic patterns where you're either off to work with kids or excuse me, off to school with kids or off to work for yourself, and it's not that much of an impact. So I just kind of want to level set here.
Now, will this one meet the parking like we've talked about?
Yeah, these are all 35 feet setbacks
Do we
and all
need
that.
to address the corner lots, which we have to come back and address on the corner lots? Because it appears that some of the corner lots don't meet the 35 on both sides.
15.
It would have to be something similar. I mean, you're right. I think you would probably just have to either address it with the 35-foot setback, or I'm trying to think, we had that come
What
up
did we
before.
do
I'm trying
when
to
that came
remember.
up? What was our, how did we address that before?
I think we required a 35 on both sides because, now that I think about it, because we were concerned about the ability of enforcing that in a development, making sure it gets caught, I guess, and that sort of thing. Because if you don't have it, then you're dictating which side, you know, the house faces. You know, if you dictate a 35 setback
I
and a 15
think you said y'all
setback.
didn't want to do that.
Right, so, yeah, we probably need to look at that and add that as a condition, that to be 35 on both sides of the corner.
There's not that many corners,
There's not that many of them, right.
but I think we got the exact same issue as we had before.
Hey, may only be, what, 4 lots? Yeah.
That's all I say. So are we saying that lot 33, 34, 38, and 10 there,
Yes,
is that where the,
those are the 4, yeah.
all right, yes, sir. Thank you for your patience. Please give us your name and address.
I'm Kevin Estes. I'm with Land Solutions Company, 2925 Berry Hill Drive. I'm representing Susan and Sean Collins, as well as the contract holder on this property. We'll do age restricted. It's just a pain in the rear with the state to get everything certified, because it's a big certification problem, but not a problem process. So we'll do that. Just through a couple of it, I wanted to just address, this is a maintained community, so all yards are maintained. Everything, there's 2 bedrooms on the bottom floor. Everything's built wider for handicap accessibility. So everything is designed for, I hate to say active adult because I'm hitting that age. And I would like to say, Councilmember Morrell, that I don't go at 8 o'clock to the drive anymore either. I try to sleep in. Traffic's awful everywhere nowadays. But yes, the active adult community typically does not operate during peak hours of traffic and operates at a significantly smaller trip per day generation, according to the studies. So we think this is an excellent spot for this. Obviously I've been around in this area quite a bit, seen the growth and the parks and the development of this area, so we think this community would fit in excellent out here. And so we'll be glad to, if you want to approve it with the condition of age restriction or add that in there, Kevin, we would support that.
All right, and you said that all 76 units will have 2 bedrooms on the main floor?
Yes, they have 2 bedrooms. All their living's on the bottom floor. Typically, there's a flex room on the top and an office space on the top. That's, we've done this in about 7 different communities around.
So you don't have a
Up to
problem us making that part of the,
Yeah, that's fine for the 2 bedrooms to be on the bottom floor.
and minimum square footage is what?
1,500.
What would be the max? Will they
It depends on if they build out a second floor. It typically gets up to be at 2,200. The footprint of these things are 34 foot wide by 65 foot deep, which is about 2,000 square foot on the bottom floor. And then the garage, they have a 2-car garage, so you take that out, it leaves about 1,600 square foot on the bottom floor. And then they typically, like I said, have a flex room on the top, and the flex room, some people turn into the office, some people turn into a bedroom for the kids to visit, but like I said, I believe this will be the 8th development with this product that we will have done, and they're excellent selling product, and typically, well, almost always, they're 90% 55 and older people.
Well, and I appreciate your
I
willingness to
understand
do
y'all's
that.
concerns too, because it's being new to it and saying age restricted versus age targeting. The reason why, and if Dave was still in here, I'd pull him up here. People don't like to do age restrictions because you have to certify that through the state, and it's a very long process, and it's kind of cumbersome. And then it becomes a lot of rules that a lot of age restricted communities try to undo after the fact.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of reporting and things that goes on forever. It's just a real, so the design, like I say, knocks out 99% of people who don't want to live there because they're designed 2 bedrooms down, all the living on the downstairs floor, wider entries, wider doors. It's kind of been through the process to be designed to hit that age group.
Yeah, this is just such an explosive area for
Mhm.
us with the Stewart Creek School Complex.
Oh yeah, I'm all over it out there.
Yeah, and, we're trying to be as cognizant as we can as far as traffic concerns and whatnot.
I understand that.
I also think just from, from a marketing perspective from yours, you've got a lot of families out there that have, children that are attending schools there. It's a great place for the grandparents to move in and be close to family, move them in from out of state, move them local,
Yeah.
have the one living area so that mobility's not as much of an issue going up and downstairs, because I can talk to you about that right now at my advanced age. And again, with the amenities out there with the park and whatnot, I think it's a win from your perspective and from our perspective as far as traffic, and as we continue to grow out that way and not having the traditional traffic patterns with this, I think it makes it all for a good fit.
And the last thing I just want to address, and Kevin mentioned it, is y'all have such a quick process, and we appreciate that. But sometimes we just can't get everything turned around. We have done a grading plan that we'll be submitting to ensure that we have a long landing at the entrance, and I believe it's 9% of slope. It meets your standards of the entry road. That's part of the redesign to give a longer entry road distance to get down, because it does sit down a little bit off the road. So, other than that, thank you for your time tonight.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
With your corner property, is that, I think we mentioned it,
The
having
4 of
a
'em?
35-foot not elevation, but setback? Are there opportunities to have a side entry? I know you stated all will be front-loaded, front entry. Just
That's a
don't know
little bit
few
beyond my
properties.
expertise. I'm kind of the dirt guy. I don't really deal with the architecture. I don't know how to answer that question because I'm afraid I'd answer it wrong. Typically, I've not seen a side-loaded villa, but there's nothing between the garage and the side. So,
Right.
Again, I don't know what it takes to move a door from the front to the side, and I apologize about that. But
It just looks like there's an opportunity to kind of
there
mix up
definitely
with
would be an
those few
opportunity,
properties. Yeah.
and I can talk to the builder about that. If I answer you, I'm going to answer you wrong, I'm afraid. So.
Just make a note of that opportunity that exists for them.
all right, so we've made additional comments concerning the 4 lots. You can live in, it's 1,500 square foot minimum. 2 bedrooms on, first floor of all units. And 2-car garage. And all will have 2-car garages. And 55 and up.
Age restricted, right?
Age restricted. Plus the others that were on here. Okay? And basically, you're okay with the design review and the materials used on all those units. Okay? Other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve with staff comments as well as the amended comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mike. I think, all right. And any other questions or comments?
Show me as not voting or participating in the discussion, please.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on, under new business, item B, preliminary plats. Number 1, Gwen Farms, staff comments.
So this is phase 2A of Gwynn Farms. It is part of the overall Gwynn Farms PRD on Rock Springs Road. This portion of the property is about 74.11 acres, 53 lots are proposed. We had kind of 5 standard comments. We would keep those. The comment number 1 regarding the proposed water line must connect to the existing 16-inch water line on Rock Springs Road. That's been addressed. Comment number 2, Dale Drive is kind of the main road. There's 2 roads. They're connecting at Waldron Road. This would be the secondary entrance. Where is Dale Drive, and it is a collector on our thoroughfare plan, and they are showing it as that. Their proposed plat does stop the road about 10 or 11 feet from that southern property line. They show the right-of-way all the way, but the construction of it stops about 10 or 11 feet from that line. Pretty sure it's because of the grades in that area. They're about 6 to 8 feet below the grade of the adjoining property is what they're showing, so. But we did ask them to extend it to that southern property line.
Now, is it where Dale Drive can extend on, or is there a problem there?
I mean, the topography of this whole area is very difficult, but it is, they're making it work to this point. I think it can be extended. It's just, I think it was just to make the grades work on their side without being able to extend it further south.
Is this part of what we were expecting to go all the way through to Lee Road?
Yes, it is.
All right.
It is.
Can it be done?
Yeah, it can be done. It's just.
Not anything money won't fix?
You can design anything to make it work, but in money, correct. So, but
Is there a more reasonable route for it?
I don't know that there really is. It's because it's the same type of issue, really, this whole area. So, this is where we really need another connection between Rock Springs Road and Lee Road, other than Cooks Lane and Montgomery Way.
And I think we were anticipating something here that would tie in, were we not?
Right, and they're showing that. Dale Drive is that road. You have adjoining properties to the south it's going to have to eventually be extended into when those would happen, but
Well, I guess my point is, we should have enough topo information to know if this is where that needs to be, or if it's designed to go into a hillside that
no, I mean,
in all
yeah.
practicality can't ever be built.
Right, and we do have that, and that's why I said it can be done. It's just anywhere you connect it in this area is gonna be difficult. I mean, you know, because, I mean, this, if you look at the road profile of this road, it's, I mean, it's pretty steep.
I understand.
And they're meeting our requirements and meeting our regs, but it's pretty steep. So, this whole, most of this development's gonna have some of those challenges because that's just the property that we're talking about. The next comment regarding the 24-foot pavement width, that one has been addressed, number 3 there, so. I think that's all.
Other questions? Have a motion.
Move to approve staff comment.
We have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item under preliminary plat, Walnut Ridge, section 1 and 2, staff comments.
Yeah, this is a preliminary plat in a R3 zone, it's 18.99 acres, it's 45 lots proposed. It would be an extension of Kew Garden Lane, which is a part of the Buckingham Hills development, would be the access point. We had 5 comments, or standard comments that we would need to keep, all of those. And we had a couple of comments under standard comments regarding the proposed sewer extension for Walnut Ridge will have to tie into the proposed sewer main along Rock Springs Branch, which is all part of, tied to the actual adjoining Gwen Farms development. It's all going to serve the same, that sewer main is going to serve both developments. And then the 3 streets, Kew Garden Lane, Whistler Road, and Keats Grove are neighborhood collectors. They must have the 24-foot pavement width, and we did receive a revised plan addressing that, so that's been taken care of as well. And I think that's all I got. This is a piece of property we've seen a couple of times before with different names and different things, but it is, you know, what we would expect to see on this, as well as it meets the sketch plat that we've already looked at.
Other questions or comments? This me is not voting or taking part. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the staff comments.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 3, under preliminary plats, Westover, Phase 1. Staff comment.
Westover, this is phase one of the Westover development. It was approved as a PRD. This portion of it is 21.9 acres, with 63 lots. It is on Rocky Fork Campbell Road. We had some comments under our standard comments. Most of those would still need to remain. I would say number 4, they do show the road names now, because we do still need the approval from 911 for those names. And then we had some comments under our staff comments. Number 1, to show the 4-foot shoulder along the entire road frontage. That is something that was approved or required as a part of the PUD approval and the traffic study as part of that, so they do need to show that, and they have done that now. We had asked them to show any amenities that would be constructed with this phase, and they have responded that those will be constructed as a part of phase 2, which I think was consistent with the PUD, but we had asked them if there was anything here. The parking spaces, they did, that is from the parking spaces for the mail kiosk area. They had them did not meet the minimum size requirement, so we'd asked them to correct that, and that's been taken care of. And we did ask them to show a temporary turnaround at the end of what was on the original plat as Road C. I think it has a different name now, and anyway, that has been addressed as well. So basically, just have those standard comments.
The 4-foot shoulder along the entire road frontage, is that something that's just normally done and you don't make a comment on, because that's one of the first times I've
Well,
seen
and
it.
it is one of the first times, because that was something that was part of the traffic study, the improvements that were required as a part of the traffic study was the recommendation from the traffic engineer to put that shoulder in. And so they didn't show it on that entire frontage the first time they submitted it to us, and so we asked them, it was something that was required, so. There's turn lane, I believe, as well, but there's other things too, but, one of the, which they had shown on the original plans, but
So this shoulder's on the,
along Rocky Fork Campbell Road, on their side of the road.
so it says the entire road you're talking about.
Talking about the Rocky Fork Campbell Road frontage.
You think we need to clarify?
I mean, we could, I mean, they showed it correctly on the plan, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve the staff comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Under preliminary plats, number 4, Cedar Hills subdivision, section 2. Staff comments.
Yeah, this is a subdivision plat. It's section 2 of Cedar Hills, part of the Cedar Hills PRD, 24.8 acres with 88 lots. This is one that has been resubmitted because the preliminary plat approval did expire. So they had to they wanted to submit a final. In order to submit the final, they had to get reapproval on the preliminary plat. We did ask them, we had just a few comments, really primarily for standard comments, but the first one, we did ask them to rename the plat from section 2 to from instead of phase 2, calling it section 2, just to be consistent with the other phases of this development and their naming style. Asked them to add a temporary turnaround or the temporary turnaround they had shown as an 80-foot diameter. I think they've got it correct, but they've got it labeled as 40, so I think they really just need to label it correctly. Number 3, this does not meet our current requirement of fire flow of 1,000 gallons per minute, but this section was a part of the approval, was approved prior to our changing our enforcement of that, and it can be 500, and they do meet that at 500 gallons a minute. And comments 4 and 5 were comments from CUD that they'll need to address with CUD.
All right, now what did you say about comment number 3?
In prior years, the town had enforced a fire flow requirement of 500 gallons per minute, and this,
Yes.
and this was approved at that time. And so, with that, we sort of started enforcing the fire code of 1,000 gallons per minute then. However, this was approved prior to that change. So this is just a restating the fact that they don't meet the 1,000 gallons per minute flow, but they do meet anywhere from 500 to 700, which they can do because this was approved prior to our change in our enforcement.
Other questions or comments? Have a motion.
I'll move we approve with staff comments.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Mindy, show me is not voting on this one and the following final plat as well.
And show me as a pass on this one. Motion carried. Moving on to final plats. Item C, number 1, Cedar Hill subdivision, section 2, phase 1. Not gonna let it expire this time, are we?
That's right. This is a portion of the preliminary plat you all just looked at. This is 8.16 acres, it's 37 lots. Again, we had a few comments here. Number 1, regarding the naming has been addressed. Comment, I think 2 is really all, comments 2 through 7 are actually all CUD comments. I can say that they, just from my review, I did specifically look at the fire hydrant locations, and they have shown those, and they do meet our requirements. That was a comment that CUD had put on there as well, but they are meeting those requirements. And that's all that I've got.
Have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show me passing, 1 not participating, motion carried. Moving on. Site plan.
This is a site plan for a proposed expansion to Dr. Joe Doctor's building, which is located at 366 South Flower Street. The existing building is a brick single-story structure, approximately 2,048 square feet in size. The proposed addition is 344 square feet, which equates to about 16.8% of the existing building size. The Lowry Street overlay is applicable in this instance, being the addition fronts a public right-of-way. Modifications shall not enforce compliance to the whole building per the Lowry Street overlay. Proposed addition elevations are to replicate the existing building, which is a brick facade and meets the Lowry Street overlay requirements. Property has commercial business on the north and south side, CSX rail line to the rear of the building, and has frontage along Lowry Street. This addition is planned to be utilized for additional rooms for the business. Landscaping is not going to change with this proposed addition, so we'll stay at the 4,155 square feet, which far exceeds the required of 821 square feet. Total parking required 8 spaces. They're proposing for 9 with 1 handicap space, which is meeting the ADA requirement. Like I said, landscape is not changing with this proposed addition and is currently exceeding and meeting design review standards. Architectural elevations for the proposed addition will carry the similar building material as the existing building, which is a full brick front. Couple standard comments we'll keep, and all the staff comments have been addressed. Staff comment 2 will revise, or staff comment 3 rather, will revise regarding the pavement markings. Staff would recommend a one-way directional traffic flow going counterclockwise around the building versus clockwise around the building to avoid customer confusion with traffic flow. Normal one-way traffic around buildings, you'd think of a standard drive-through restaurant, you're going counterclockwise around the building rather than clockwise, so we'd rather them fix that, and then that is our only comment. Staff would recommend approval.
By fixing it, you mean paint the arrows?
The opposite direction, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve with staff comments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6, bond review. Staff comments.
Yes, we have a few. The first one is some landscaping requirement, or that was incomplete and still incomplete at the Traditions development. They're off Stonecrest Parkway. Did talk to the developer. They are, it's an area that's kind of still under construction with the apartments next door, and so they're going to finish that up as a part of the apartments, and so we would recommend just keeping that. So those will probably be finished this summer. So Rooker's Bend, Section 1, Phase 1, quite a few comments there. Did reach out to the developer, was not able to, I did not hear back from him. We would recommend extension. They are getting past the point of needing to go ahead and finish this up, and we would recommend extending it to allow for completion of that punch list. Next one is just a landscape bond that, again, I never receive a phone call back when I reach out to the developer on this. So we do need to keep that one because it's not been finished yet. Woodmont 6C, that is the water and sewer bond for that's the townhome section out there in Woodmont. They have not built any units in that phase yet, so we would recommend extending that one. Woodmont Section 4, there's 3 items from the punch list there. It is built out. It is his end of the maintenance period. They did respond that they will complete that before the due date and to please release it. And we are okay with that as long as they get those 3 items done. Otherwise, we would need to extend it. Section 5 of Woodmont, similar situation, a few punch list items. Again, it is the end of the maintenance period there, and again, we would be fine with that as they get those items completed. Otherwise, extend 6 months. Lennox Phase 1, Section 2C, again, end of the maintenance period, a couple small items there. Release, if those, it says 3, it should have wrote 2. There's only 2 items there. Get completed. Villages of Green Tree, Phase 1 and 2. A few punch list items there. We would recommend, because the pavement, this is a section where most everything's been completed except a small area of the road did not get finished till very recently as far as the asphalt. And so we would recommend 6 more months on this one as a maintenance until that last, so we can get a year into that for the asphalt there on that last piece of that. And that's all I got.
Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anything else?
Just that we are nearing completion on our comprehensive plan. We did have a plug meeting a couple weeks ago. I saw a few of your faces there. We thought it went really well, and hopefully in the next near couple months, we'll have something for you to review and approve. So that's all I got.
Okay, one thing, which I was talking about on the Gwynn property, since we have somebody that's working with our roads and we have a lot more access to information, when we're looking at roads to adjoining properties, would like to take a look at that to see that we are making it adjoin at connect at a right place, or because we have in the past said yes, it does go to the adjoining property, to find out that it's really not very usable and we're not going to be able to continue on with that. So
Okay.
if we could just address that and look at that as y'all are reviewing stuff, I would
Sure.
appreciate it. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Y'all have anything? Stand adjourned. Thank you.